Hello, everyone. I just wanted to touch base with you about the work around subconscious mastery. I want to clarify for you the way the subconscious mind works and how it shows up in our lives, as well as why working with the subconscious mind is so important and valuable for your personal journeys, as well as how this work is relevant and useful to you as a trauma-informed practitioner. So simply put, your subconscious mind contains your core perceptions about yourself. These perceptions include the way you feel about your own intrinsic value and the way you feel or what you believe about your role in the world, and how you show up in relationships based on those beliefs. To give you an example, let's say someone grew up in a household in which emotions were not prioritized or encouraged. And so because of that environment where people always kind of kept what they were really feeling on the inside and never expressed that outwardly, because of that, this child forms this core belief or this core perception that it's not okay to show emotion. And so they carry this feeling of it's not okay or it's not safe to show emotion. And they carry that with them into their life. Now, the subconscious mind is mostly programmed by around age 7. Okay, so these core beliefs are sort of locked in place by that time. And then we carry them into our adult years. So what happens is that the relationship we had with our external environment when we were growing up helped to create this core belief that, emotions are unsafe or not encouraged or not to be expressed. So that becomes this core belief, right? And so because of that belief, we end up often attracting relationships that just reinforce that belief. So we may find that we get into relationships with people who are not comfortable with emotions. We get into relationships where people kind of want us to not share too much, right? Or make us feel like our emotions don't matter or that it's not safe to voice them. And so we attract these relationships based on our core belief that it's not safe to show emotion. So that is how the subconscious mind comes to shape the relationships that we attract into our lives and the way we show up in the external world. But the other piece of it, so that's the external piece of it. The internal piece is that when we begin to believe something like it's not safe to show emotion, we internalize that belief and it shapes the way we relate and interact with ourselves. So this inner relationship that we have with ourselves. And what that looks like is repressing or suppressing our own emotions, not allowing other people to see what we're really feeling, or not allowing ourselves the time and space to feel the emotions that we're carrying. So we turn that belief on ourselves and we start treating ourselves in this way, the way that the world told us or showed us how to treat ourselves. So it becomes an external relationship, but also an internal relationship. Okay. This can also show up. Let's use a different example because examples help us bring it down to earth. Let's say someone grew up in an environment where there were a lot of needy or unwell people around them. And they grew up recognizing that the only way for them to get love, validation, or to feel safe at home was if they were helping other people who were unwell or needy. And so it formed this core belief that I'm only safe if I'm helping, or I'm only going to be loved if I'm helping. And then they grow up and they find themselves being in relationships with other people who always need help. And so they have created an external reality to mirror the core perception. But they're unaware of it because it exists at the subconscious level. Now, they also internalize that relationship that says it's only safe if I'm helping people, or I'm only safe if I'm helping people, or I'm only lovable if I'm helping people. And that becomes the relationship they have with themselves. So they end up being someone who is an overgiver, who's always helping other people and not really creating space and time for them to help themselves. Because if the core belief is it's only safe if I'm helping people, then that means it's not safe if I'm helping myself, because it's only safe if I'm helping people. And so that comes to govern the way we care for ourselves, right? That relationship that is an inner relationship. So it's twofold. The subconscious mind governs every aspect of our being, the external and the internal. So if we are operating through that subconscious lens and we haven't done anything to heal these core perceptions and to teach ourselves a new way of being in the world, then that means that we're operating with a fragmented self. That means that there is an underlying truth to our existence, right? There is an emotional being. There is a being who needs to care for herself and longs for nourishment. But if we're operating through these core perceptions, then those parts of ourselves, the emotional part or the part that needs help for herself or needs nourishment for herself, those parts don't get to show up in the world. They don't get to express themselves through our lives. And that means that we're operating, we're operating with only part of ourselves online. The other parts are being repressed and suppressed. And they're being repressed and suppressed because we feel that it's unsafe if these parts of ourselves are animating through our lives. So we kind of keep them in a box or keep them hidden. This is problematic. It becomes problematic for our bodies. It becomes problematic for our psyche. And it becomes problematic in the client practitioner relationship. One of the reasons it's problematic is that we transfer our energy into every interaction we have. So if I'm going into a client session feeling like it's only safe if I'm helping people, that means that I'm actually carrying a feeling of an attachment to feeling unsafe, right? It's not safe for me to care for myself. It's only safe if I care for other people. If I'm bringing that vibration or that belief that I am unsafe if I am fully myself, if I'm carrying that around in my being, then I'm carrying that into my client sessions, and that will be transferred. That will be transferred. So that's one aspect. The other piece of that beyond transference is that if we're operating from that core belief, then we're not really operating in true alignment with ourselves, right? So if we're operating with the belief that it's not safe for us to fully show up, then how can we assist other people to feel like it's safe for them to fully show up? It's really challenging to do that, because creating a sense of safety within ourselves that says you are allowed to be fully what you are, and to really follow through on that and live our lives in that way, it's a lot of internal work. And if we have not taken that journey within ourselves, then we will not know how to guide someone else to do that, because that journey requires not only subconscious awareness of these core beliefs, but it requires the awareness of what happens within the nervous system when we're trying to teach ourselves a brand new way of showing up in the world. Right? Because it's easy to say, oh gosh, I'm going to start using my voice. I'm going to let my emotions be shown and voiced, and I'm going to care for myself. It's easy to say that and to practice, some affirmations around it. But when it comes time to really show up and share your emotions, then your nervous system is probably going to go a little haywire because it's so brand new to you. And you'll have a lot of work to do around how to work with your nervous system to teach it how to feel safe in this new way of operating in the world. That work cannot be done at the level of your mind. It's done at the level of your felt sense, and it's very nuanced. So that is the invitation for the subconscious mastery piece, is to do that work. And as you do that work, you are going to have a masterful understanding of the subconscious, how it operates at the level of your psyche, your nervous system, your felt sense, how it feels in your body. And as you go through that process on your own, you will emerge from it with the ability to support others in that same process. There's a lot of work to do before we get to that place where we can really support another in this process. And that is the work that happens inside of you. And that's what I'm here for. That's why we're doing private sessions around this work. If you want to do additional sessions, then we can certainly do that, because as you master this part of yourself, you will be able to provide a level of support that most therapists out there cannot, because they haven't done this work within themselves. And that's not a judgment, it's just a fact. So ways that you can begin to notice the subconscious as it relates to your students and to your clients, okay? Because it's important to go ahead and start noticing it now, so you can see where the opportunities for supporting them may be. If you have a client or a student that's showing up and they seem to have a repetitive, like a pattern around a certain type of conflict in their lives, maybe they're showing up and they are feeling like they are being undervalued at work, and that's a consistent theme, right? Or maybe they are showing up and they're saying, no one respects my time. Or they're showing up and they're saying, my partner just doesn't really value spending time with me, or my partner doesn't really listen to what I have to say. And then you start noticing that this person kind of replays that narrative around various aspects of their lives. You start to notice that pattern. What you're most likely noticing is their subconscious perception, their core belief or their core perception that people don't value them in this way, or whatever it is. And so that's where you can start to see, wow, this person is operating with this core belief, and that core belief is keeping them stuck in this cycle of feeling unseen or undervalued. Perhaps it's keeping them stuck in a cycle that's very disempowering, right? Where they keep replaying the same relationship patterns over and over. And so once we can recognize that someone is kind of trapped within this theme, there's a lot of work that we can do to help them expand their awareness to other ways of perceiving a situation, right? But the real work here is it's not necessarily changing our beliefs at the mental level. It's opening ourselves up to new felt experiences, right? So if I'm working with someone who struggles, who has this narrative that there's never enough time to care for herself, then what we want to do is start looking at different ways that we can shift that pattern, right? And the first way is to recognize that it's not actually that there's never enough time to care for oneself. It's just that this person has made a lot of agreements and has a lack of boundaries that leaves her without the time to care for herself. Okay. And so we start working with, how can this person change their relationship with themselves so that they can prove that they actually do have time to care for themselves? They just have to make some new choices to embody that new reality, or that alternate reality. Okay, so this is a lot of work, because it's not as easy as, as many of you may know. Telling someone to set a boundary often is met with a lot of resistance, and they have a lot of reasons why they can't set that boundary, or why it's challenging for them, or it just feels impossible. And then we have to start working with that resistance, right? Because what's happening is their nervous system is saying, oh my gosh, setting a boundary does not feel safe to me, right? It's that subconscious belief of, it's not safe to do this for myself. And so we have to work with the part of them that feels not safe. And we have to help that part of themselves learn how to feel safe to make a new choice that benefits them. So I'll repeat that again. We want to work with the part of them that feels unsafe and help that part feel gradually that it actually is safe to make a new choice. And the key word in that is feel. Feel. It's about assisting them to cultivate a new felt sense. Okay. It's going to look different for every single person you work with, and it will take time, because it takes time for you to really get to know this person, to really get to know, what shows up for them in terms of resistance, and how does that feel at the level of their psyche and body, and what does that part of them need to feel safe enough to experience life in a new way. This is the medicine that creates lasting transformation. Okay. And if we want to assist others in cultivating this lasting transformation, because once you develop awareness of your subconscious patterns and safety with evolving those patterns, man, all of life changes, because you have just broken through that part of yourself that governs 90% of your life. that's like the whole house of cards is tumbling. And so because the house of cards is tumbling, there are a lot of emotions, right? There's a lot of nervous system uncertainty. There can be moments of what feels like overwhelm. And so this process is meant to happen gradually, right? And, it's a part of the journey where we have to practice patience and presence, right? And recognize that every single resistance that shows up, or every single emotion that shows up, or every single feeling of shame or judgment that shows up is really just a part of ourselves that needs some nourishment. It's not something that we need to villainize. It's just a new part showing up. All right, you're going to put up an obstacle here. You're going to make it difficult for me to make this new choice. All right, well, what do you need? And then we work with that part. And parts of self is what we are covering in our next group training session. It is one of the most profound pieces of any work in psychology or body-centered support. So it's just absolutely fascinating. There's no end to the wonders of the parts work. So I can't wait to share it with you. It's where we take what we've learned over the past couple of months and we bring it even deeper. So let's get ready for a beautiful, beautiful journey within, and recognize that every little bit of work you do to become more self-aware, to become more coddling or nurturing of your own nervous system, and to begin blazing a new path where more of you gets to be online, gets to be fully animated through your life. Every time you do that, you are feeding that energy back into the collective consciousness, making it a little safer and a little more supportive for every being on the planet to do this work. So that is the energy that you're transferring by staying committed to the journey. And I cannot thank you enough for doing it, because it really makes a huge difference. So keep letting it ripple throughout the world by just focusing inwardly on your own journey. All right, we'll see everyone again soon.